Hey, if you are watching right now, this is the replay. We're no longer live, but welcome. Today I'm going to be making a Tiffany bag, which is this bag right above me, in some quilted cotton. I'm gonna wait for my TikTok friends to jump on and then we'll get started. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend. I'd love to hear what you did. Mine was pretty boring. Hi! Happy Monday! So this bag actually has rolled handles, which is what we're going to start with. So I'm just going to get this all prepped, wait for a couple people to jump on, and then we'll get started. Hello! Happy Monday! So the pattern gives you all of the measurements. There's also a video tutorial that comes with it. It's a fairly easy bag. The handle is probably the most challenging part of it, and it's only because it's kind of thick. Hello everybody! I'm using 1/4" double-sided tape. Oh gosh. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do something on the video. I think that's probably why I keep getting those notifications. Hold on 1 second. Boop. Doot. And doot. There we go. I'm a couple minutes early. That's probably why I don't have a lot of people in. I don't really want to start and then have to go through everything again. So I'll just keep prepping. Okay. So I know it looks a little bit differently than my traditional handles, but it'll all make sense in a second. I'm gonna remove the tape backing. Hey Latasha, how are you? Get this folded down, which is gonna give us our finished edges on the bottom of our handles. And then we're gonna fold each side in to the center. Flip the corner. Good. It was okay. Very relaxing. Watched a lot of football yesterday. Got some stuff done around the house that I needed to do. So it was productive. Oh gosh. Hey Nancy Bear, happy Monday. Okay, so we got that all folded up. That's what it looks like right now, and then we're just going to fold it one more time and a half. Normally when I fold in half, I don't add clips, but there's a method, or a reason, I guess I should say, why I'm doing it here. Hi Jody. Hey Christy, I am making a Tiffany. So I'm just doing, I did one of the rolled handles this morning. So it looks like this when it's all done. I just have a little rubber band so that it keeps its little shape. But this is what I'm making right now, a rolled handle. Thank you. Hey, Tawana. All right, one more clip and then we'll get started. So on this, we have a side that does not have a seam, and then we have a side that does have a seam. We're actually going to, and there's a ton of different ways to make rolled handles. Here's how I like to make them. We're going to start on the side that does not have a seam. We're going to sew a little bit on this side and then come around all the way down and then come back up on this side that doesn't have a seam and stop sewing. Hey, Daisy. All right, so let me go ahead and mark where I'm going to start and where I'm going to stop. Then I'll get it sewn down. Do I have any moderators in here? This is a leather marking tool. I got it from Tandy. If you don't have one, that's fine. The pattern tells you different ways that you can make it. Oh, I wrote on one side and then I drew on the other side. Hey, Vivian. My grandma's name was Vivian. There we go. Okay, get everything set up. And then we're gonna sew down. I'm using, I don't know if you can see this right here. This is an attachment to my sewing machine. It's a seam. What am I thinking? What's the word I'm thinking of? It makes the seam the exact same all the way around. Seam guide. It's a seam guide. So I'm using that because we're going to sew along the same row of stitches twice. Hi. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Robin. Guide. Thanks, Robin. We're going to sew along the same row of stitching twice, and so I want to make sure that my stitching is right on top of the other one, so I'm using a seam guide to do that. So we're going to start, make sure everything is good, back stitch, and then come on down, and then go all the way around. So on the side that does not have the seam, we're not sewing the entire row, we're just sewing a little piece. Hey! Did you make all those purses behind you? Yes. A lot of them I actually did live too. All right, so we're gonna come down and then we're just gonna sew up just a touch where we made that mark. Going to remove the little mark that I made, trim my little threads, and then here's where it becomes a rolled handle. The machine looks new. Nope, this is the same machine I have. All right, so here's what I was telling you about. We're just sewing a little here around the side that has the seam, and then when we stop, we're gonna come up and sew just a little bit over here, and then we're just going to fold this in half. Happy Monday. And I'm just gonna clip like every inch all the way down to hold this together. So the bag comes with, and the pattern comes with rolled handles, but if you want to remake this bag and your sewing machine just can't handle all of these layers of vinyl, that's okay. I've actually added an alternative way to make these at the end of the pattern. I just really like the rolled handles look. It's very classic and timeless. Thanks, Dana. All right, couple more clips. There we go. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do, let me see if I can show you. I'm gonna take this clip off. Remember where we only sewed a little bit along this side of it? We're going to connect this row of stitching. So we're gonna start here, sew all the way down and stop right down here. Now we want to make sure that that row of stitching is the same on this side as well, which is why I use the seam guide. If you don't have a seam guide, there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple of different ways the pattern shows you how to do it. All right, I'm gonna get my tension right. So we're gonna start where that row of stitching ends, back stitch, and then keep going all the way down. So right now I'm sewing over 6 layers of vinyl. And then I'm going to stop where I started. You sell those purses? Yeah, everything's listed on my website, butterbags.com. There we go. So here's the row of stitching that I just made. And if you look on the other side, it lines up with that first row of stitching. So that way everything looks really seamless. And then we're gonna take this off. Let me singe my little tiny threads that are poking out. There we go. And because we didn't sew all the way to the bottom, we have this little piece that flares out, and that's what's going to be sewn to, I don't know if you can see it, I know it's kind of dark up there, to the bag. Now, what I like to do is just add a little rubber band so that way it can start forming that roundness, and we can attach it to the bag a little bit later. So I'm just going to set this aside. This bag has a zippered pocket on the interior, so I'm going to go ahead and make that now. Use this tape. So it has a zipper overlay. I'm going to go ahead and add some double-sided tape. That's going to hold this overlay in place while I sew it on. That's a good idea for the rubber bands. Thanks. Yeah, because it's a thick piece of vinyl, and so it's going to want to stick straight out. So if you just do it first, set it aside, give it a couple of minutes to kind of form its shape. There's not a lot of pulling when you actually go to sew it down. Okay, so let me show, I don't think I showed you guys the bag that I'm making. So it's this style, and yesterday I quilted some more of that fall fabric that I showed you. And this time I added it to foam. This is non-fusible foam. Yeah, non-fusible foam. So I sewed all these little patches of cotton fabric together. I sewed all the rows, all of the columns, and then I had just a piece of this behind it, and then I sewed along the seam on each of these. And that's given me this quilted look. So this is the bag we're making. This top part right here is going to look like this. The bottom part is going to be this really pretty dark orange. Let's see, this is going to be the handle. I chose a black zipper just to give it kind of a contrast around the top. And this is going to be the interior. Very fall. Thank you. I've added it to my website, so if anybody wants to purchase it, it is available for sale. All right, so let's go back. So this is going to be the zipper pocket on the inside. So it's going to wind up being sewn like this. So you got a little pop of that orange being brought inside. I'm going to take the tape back off. I'm going to center this and then sew it down. There we go. So that's just taped in place, and then now I'm going to sew all the way around the outside. Have we got to talk about tomorrow? What's tomorrow? Tuesday? sorry, wrong message. That's okay. I was like, what am I missing? Now I want to know what's going on tomorrow. All right, I'm just pulling my thread through the back so I can knot it off. I'm just manually going around the corners. That way I know everything is nice and even. I don't like Tuesdays. Oh, I'm sorry. Hopefully tomorrow's is a little bit better. Let's go ahead and knot these threads off. Good morning. Good afternoon. There we go. So I just sewed around the outside. That's what it looks like on the back. And then now what I'm going to do is, oh, let me show you. Here's where I started and where I stopped. I think I overlapped one stitch right here. And that's why I pull it back and knot it off, just to make it look a little bit more seamless. So I don't have multiple rows of stitches where I back stitched when I started and where I stopped. We're gonna get that fabric out of that box. Has anybody seen Deanie or Just Mammy? I haven't seen any of my moderators. I forgot. I usually text message Just Mammy, but I completely forgot to do that. Mondays. What am I making? The Tiffany bag. This one is a little bit more fall. I don't think either are here yet. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think I saw them. All right, so we just got the fabric out of that, so we can go ahead and install our zipper pocket. So I'm just gonna add some more double-sided tape, which is gonna hold the pocket in place while we sew it on. I went ahead and I know I've made 100 of these live, but I went ahead and just sewed the zipper to the pocket piece. So if you've seen me before, you didn't really miss anything. And then I just added my pool. That's the only thing that I did. So I'm going to take off the tape backing. I'm going to center this zipper in this little opening that we have and then sew that down. And then push it into the tape. There we go. So it is nice and centered, and then I'm just going to sew around this small inside box, and that's going to secure the zipper pocket here. Trudy, it's butterbags.com. My website is also linked in my TikTok, so if you go over to my TikTok page, right underneath the follow button, there'll be a link, and it'll take you right there. Alright, I'm going to pull that thread through just like I did when I sewed the zipper overlay on, and then keep going. Thanks, Trudy. There we go. Same thing, pull those threads through, knot them off. This morning I opened up a brand new seam ripper, so I don't want to pull too hard and accidentally cut my thread. I don't know why that's not pulling back. There we go. All right. So we have that sewn in with this little box right here. And then now what I'm going to do is just cut my bottom pocket so that it's nice and flush with the bottom of the pattern piece. Pull down this and then sew it together. And that's going to close the pocket. I've missed you so much. Sharon, I've been here. The last few weeks I've been doing a lot of lives. And then all of my lives that I've done before, if you missed any, I upload them to my YouTube channel. Alright, so I'm just going to sew down the sides first. And then I'm going to sew the bottom of the pocket shut by just stitching it along the bottom of the actual interior panel. So just go ahead and sew this down. There we go. And now the pocket is installed and closed. Get rid of these threads. So that's what the pocket looks like now. Alright, let's set this aside. And I'm going to do a little bit of prep work. So this bag is closed by using a binding method. So this is going to be the bottom for the interior. This is going to be the bottom for the exterior. Instead of taking the time to cut the pattern for the inside with the circle, I just cut a square. I'm going to sew these two together and then I'm just going to trim off the excess. That way I don't have to take a whole lot of time to make sure all of my edges are perfect. Just saves me a little time. So I just sewed the two together. Nothing major. And I'm just going to trim off the excess. So now we have the bottom of our bag done. I'm going to set this aside. And then next what I'm going to do is sew the bottom bands together. So if you look at this bag right here, there's this top arc, which is this piece, and then there's an actual bottom band that connects the two. So that's what I'm going to be working on next. So this is the bottom band for the exterior. This is the bottom band for the interior. And the only thing that we need to do is just place them right sides together, sew along the sides. Now this seam allowance is incredibly important to make sure that this band fits around the top. So I'm going to just draw my seam allowance. I usually wing my seam allowance. This one is just a little bit more important. What kind of machine are you using? Thanks, Robin. Yeah, this is a Juki 1181. There we go. So we're going to put interior to interior and then exterior to exterior and sew those down. And I just drew my seam allowance. So if you're new to sewing, I know sometimes the throat plate has different seam allowance measurements right here. If you're like me and not great about making the seam allowance correct, you can always just draw it. Nobody is going to tell you not to. Alright, so the exterior is done. Now what I'm going to do is open this up, and I want this seam right here to lay flat. So I'm just going to open that seam up and add a couple of stitches along the top and the bottom of both sides, just so that it lays nice and flat. And that's just going to be beneficial when we add this to that top arc when we're sewing them together. Everything's going to be nice and flat. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. That way we don't have that fabric just kind of sticking out on us. Let's see. Hey, Andrea. I'm trying to find my, do you design all your bags? Not all of them, but some of them. I know, so enticing. I'm actually looking for somebody for some reason I don't see any of my moderators in here. Would you mind moderating So Enticing? I should be cleaning, but instead I'm watching. Thanks, Lisa. Deanie, okay, great. We just had a couple of spam comments. I was looking for you earlier, I didn't see you. If you're busy, Deanie, and you can't do it, that's totally okay. I don't want to pull you away from something if you're busy. I just blocked that last person. Okay, no worries, Deanie's here. Alright, so we have the exterior bottom band sewn up. I'm going to set this aside, and then we're going to do the same thing for the interior. I'm going to sew along that line that I drew for my seam allowance. Now this is cotton, so I can manipulate this and flatten it out a lot easier than I can vinyl. So you don't necessarily have to sew your seams flat. You can if you want. I'm not going to. Alright, so we're going to set these aside. And then now what we're going to do is add our handles to the bag. So this is going to be, the front and the back are the exact same. The positioning of the material is just a little bit different, but they're the same. So I'm going to take one of my handles, add some double-sided tape. Right along the bottom. And while I've got my tape out, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing to this one. And the tape is just going to hold everything in place while we're sewing it. Hi, Diana. So these squares were 3 inches by 3 inches, and I used a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So they ended up being probably 2 by 2. Yeah, 2 by 2. So if you cut out 3 by 3 squares and you use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, they're going to be 2 inches by 2 inches. All right. I'm going to take the tape backing off. Let me check the distance. It's been a while since I made this bag. I'm pretty sure what it is, but I just want to double check. Yeah. There we go. And then I'm going to just tape these in place and then we'll sew them down. There we go. So the tape's just holding it right now. We're going to go ahead and just sew along the bottom to connect them. And then we're going to add a rivet. Did you get your machine fixed? Almost. I mean, I can sew on it, but it still needs a new hand wheel. The hand wheel's ordered. It just needs to be installed. So, kinda. There we are. This handle is sewn to the bag. So it wasn't anything major. I mean, it kind of was, but nothing that couldn't be fixed. So this is what the top of the bag is going to look like. It's going to be so pretty. This is the bag that we're making. So this is going to be the top, and then we'll do the same thing to the other side. And then we'll add the rivets. Yeah, I know. I was stressing out when I first unpacked it, because this was like the last thing to unpack because we had gotten so many items that were broken. I knew that if I opened this up like during the midst of all of that, I probably would have lost my mind. So I actually waited like maybe 10 days after we started unpacking before I unpacked this, just to kind of bring my stress level down. And it was broken. So had I opened this up when I was finding everything else in the house broken, I would have lost it. But yeah, I'm glad that it was just something that could be fixed pretty easily. And the guy that I found here in this area who came and fixed it was phenomenal. I purchased your big pattern. Since Joanne closed, it's hard to find supplies. I know. I actually invested, I pulled the plug this weekend and I went ahead and invested in some cotton. So there's a supplier that sells bolts to like quilting stores, and I went ahead and ordered it Saturday, and I spoke with my sales representative and she said that it should be shipping out today. I'm so excited to show you guys these fabrics that I bought. And I did a little research. My local quilting stores, they sell this same type of material. Like one of the prints that I purchased, I found it in a store that's an hour away. So I'm assuming that the person at that quilting store orders from the same supplier. So they had one of the prints that I purchased and they have it listed for $12.99. And then I looked at some other prices around the area and I found about $13 was the average price for good quality cotton. Not the stuff at like Joann's or Michael's. That's quality cotton, but the quilting store level of cotton is usually top tier. So one, I know this is going to be good quality, and two, knowing that it sells for about $13 a yard, I'm thinking I can probably sell it for like $11.50 at the most. So that way I'll be able to save you guys some money if, you know, unless you were going to go get it at a quilting store. Hi, Debs. So there's some really pretty fabric that's coming, I promise. All right, so we have our handles installed. Now we're going to add some rivets. So I'm just going to make a mark. Actually, I'm not. I'm just going to poke through where the rivets go. I just like to roll this up so I can get this over. Make sure it's nice and centered. We're poking through all of those layers of fabric on both handles. And then while I have this, I'm just going going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. Because right now, only the bottom is sewn, so you'll be able to see all of this behind it. So we're going to add rivets up here. That way, the handle won't be movable. Okay, Deanie. All right, let me grab my rivets and my press and we'll get this done. And this is like the last step of the prep work. After did this, we're gonna go ahead and just put everything together. I'm gonna use my small rivets. Press. Put that through that foam, add the back. There we go. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm only using my small rivets because the fabric, this fabric right here, is not as thick as the vinyl that I normally use. I would usually use a medium-sized rivet. But I don't have all the thickness of that vinyl. Even with the foam can be smashed down, so I don't need a longer rivet. There we are. So cute. There's one. There we go. And the other one. Now we're going to go ahead and add our zipper to the top. So I'm just going to place this down and then just sew it all the way around the top. If you are making this bag and you don't have a zipper that can be separated, if yours is already finished, then there's a process on the pattern that shows you how to do that. I tried to think about everything when I was making this pattern, what people might come across. And I tried to answer it while I made the pattern. Strange. The zipper is short. It's about 3/4 of an inch too short, which is strange. I wonder if it's because this is cotton. I don't know. That's weird. Let me go cut a longer one. I need to take this one off and go cut a longer piece of zipper. That's so weird. I'm wondering, I mean, I'm assuming that it has to do with this cotton because I made one yesterday and I used the same size zipper and it was fine. But that's okay. Everything's fine. It's fine. Unless when I cut this out, cut the pattern piece for the top, after I quilted everything. I may have cut it a little too large. I don't know. I'm going over the scenarios in my head. Hi, Sherry. Oh, you know what? It may have just been that I started it too low. That may be it. Let's try it again. Let me just get all these little pieces of thread out of here. It's in our seam allowance, so it's not going to matter, but I prefer to have everything nice and neat. Okay. Alright, let's clean this up and start again. Hi Susan, how are you? Hey Elle! Happy Monday. I just had a little hiccup, but I'm good. Let's try this again. There we go. Perfect. So that's what it was. I just started a little high. Alright, so the zipper is attached to the top. Now what I'm going to do is take one of my inside lining pieces. I'm going to go ahead and attach that to the zipper next. So I made a mark, my center. It goes right here. So I'm going to line that center up first and then just clip it around. Hey Lisa! Thanks Susan! I'm using the same fabrics, the quilted fabrics that I did. When was I live last? Was it Thursday or Friday? I think it may have been Friday. Yeah, it was Friday. I made a wristlet out of these materials on Friday, and then I got such great feedback, and that wristlet sold out right away that I was like, well, what else can I make with this that would be super adorable for the fall season? And the Tiffany bag is just perfect. Alright, so I'm almost done clipping this to the zipper, and then we sew. So it's going to look a little funky with that handle right there, but it's okay. We're going to go ahead and just take it nice and slow. There we go. Susan, are you still here? Now I'm just going to turn this right side out so I can do a top stitch. A little piece of thread along the top. Do you mind if I add you as a moderator? I know Deanie was kind of in and out, and I'm not sure if I have any other moderators on right now, and we had a little bit of spam. There we go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch along the top. And then I'm going to sew the bottoms together. Oh, are you? Let me double check, just to make sure. Yep, you are. Good. Thanks, Tammy Lee. I think I'm good right now, but if she has to run, we can get you added. All right, so we're gonna top stitch along the top, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew the inside and outside together by sewing along the bottom. I just noticed that I sewed the zipper on backwards. Now I'm going to have to take off the inside and outside and redo it. Which is okay. It's just mildly annoying. It's the curse of the zipper day. I've done that before. 3rd time's the charm. Yeah, hopefully. 3rd time is the charm. I got this, I pulled this seam ripper out. That might be it. That's why. I pulled this seam ripper out this morning because my old one was getting kind of dull. And I feel like the sewing world is saying, oh, okay, well, let's put that thing to use. I guarantee had I not pulled out a new seam ripper, none of this would have happened. I'm just kidding. I'm not like superstitious or anything. But it's kind of funny how I just pulled out a new seam ripper. Do I have the pattern for this bag? Yeah, this is my pattern. So it's available at butterbags.com. On the menu, there's a section that's called DIY, and then there's a drop down that says digital pattern. So this is listed there. That's not how you use that thing. This. There's more than one ways to use a seam ripper. This is how I prefer to do it, especially with the new one. I don't want to push it down because I don't want to cut my zipper and I don't want to cut my fabric. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use the seam ripper. If this isn't the way that you use it, that's okay. This is how I use it. Getting it broken, yeah. For sure. I'm probably going to need a new one by the end of the day. This one's going to be so dull. You know what's crazy? I remember during my last live, somebody asked me if I ever mess up. I told them then, and I'll say it again. Yes, I do. Nobody is perfect. I buy them in a 6-pack. I buy them in like a 10-pack. Wallback actually sells them. I mean, it may be more than that. But yeah, I buy them a lot of them at a time too. I mean, they're super cheap, but there's nothing better than having a really good sharp seam ripper. Okay, my lining is almost off, and then I'm gonna have to take this off of my exterior. I use a tool I use any tool how it benefits me, right? Okay, let's get these little threads out of here. Keep it clean. And I swear if for some reason this one doesn't work, I'm just gonna get off live because I don't think I could go through this again. But we should be good. I'm gonna do something a little bit different this time. And I should have done it. I looked at my zipper and I was like, I should probably do that. And then I was like, no. I got a little too arrogant. But what I'm going to do next, and this is going to be beneficial if you're interested in never having to go through this, I'll show you what I do normally. keep going. All right, we're almost there. Did I move from Oahu? I did. Yeah, we've been here for a couple of months now. I live in Northern Virginia, in Alexandria, which is such a change of pace from Hawaii. The weather is starting to get cold. I looked at the forecast last night, and I think today and maybe tomorrow it's going to be in like the upper 70s, and then after tomorrow I think like overnight it's going to get down to like the 50s, and I don't think it's going to get above mid 70s this week, so it's going to be kind of chilly. I'm looking forward to it. Did I make all these bags behind me? Yes. Have you been able to fish yet? Yes. We did that. So we came over here and we had to stay in a hotel for a little bit before we got our stuff delivered to our home. And we were in the hotel and we were just out almost every day fishing. So yes, we definitely got that in. Does it say in your patterns what materials and thread? No, I don't think it does. That's not usually traditionally included in materials. I mean, in patterns, like the type of thread. But normally, I would suggest the type of material to use. So I think like in this one, it was like a all vinyl. But then there's ways that you can change it. Okay, so remember how I said that I'm going to show you guys what to do to avoid this happening, installing it on the wrong side. Put them together first. There we go. Now I know that this needs to be sewn along this way. Let me just get all my threads out. But me wanting to go a little fast, I just pulled them apart and was like, let's go. Where do you sell my bags? On my website, butterbags.com. I've never seen your TikTok before. I find it very interesting. Thanks, welcome. It doesn't usually go like this. So if you're new here, it usually goes a lot breezier. Seamlessly. There was so many words that were going through my head. I was like, how do I want to say it? It's usually not this crazy. You're from Virginia, but not Nova. Which part of Virginia are you from? Okay, let's try this again. With our zipper together, I know this is going to be sewn right here. So I can go ahead and start it, and then I can remove the zipper tape. And then we'll do the same thing to connect the other side. I don't know how I messed that up. Roanoke. Oh, okay. Deep breath. You know, I was watching, I think like a TikTok or something. Maybe it was somewhere else. I was watching a video where somebody said if you get incredibly frustrated at something, to just take like a slow deep breath in and a slow deep breath out, and it usually almost immediately resolves your frustration. And I'll give you an example how I know that this works. One thing my husband does that absolutely frustrates me to the bone is if he says something to me, especially like if I'm in another room and I can't hear him, and I say what, and then he repeats it at the exact same decibel, like the exact same volume. I don't know why, but that frustrates me to no end. So one day last week, it happened. He said something to me and I was like, I didn't, you know, what did you say? And he repeated it at the same volume, and I literally stopped, took a deep breath, slow deep breath in, slow deep breath out, and I was fine. I didn't have that frustration anymore. So I say that to say that if you're sewing and you get frustrated, just stop, take a slow deep breath in and slow deep breath out. Sorry, no, it doesn't help me. Okay. It helps me. I promise it helped me. Can you do black leather one with sunflower? Sure. I always walk away for a few. I'm working on a quilt and I had to sew it at least 5 times. It's crazy. When I'm sewing or crafting, I do that or walk away. Yeah. Yeah, normally, well, like, I mean, I'm live, so it's not like I can just get up and walk away. Like, had this happened if I was off camera, I probably would have just gotten up and gone upstairs and got me like a cup of tea or something. I actually put what I'm doing down, yeah. But I swear, like, when my husband does that I can't just walk away because I need to hear what he said. And so I just, and it works, and I'm fine. And I'll normally just walk into the room that he's in and be like, I just said I couldn't hear you. All right, we're back in business. Everything is going fantastic. Now we're going to turn it right side out and do a top stitch. Do you know, had I done a top stitch and then recognized that the zipper was on the wrong way, I probably would have thrown this away and just got off left. Music helps me when I'm sewing. Yeah, I normally have on something. I do a lot of day trading and swing trading, so a lot of the times I'll have like a YouTube channel on in the background with just trading information. That way I can kind of distract my brain from sewing. Not to sound like arrogant, but I don't typically make a lot of mistakes. I've just been doing it for a really long time, so it just doesn't usually happen. But when it happens, I feel like it hits hard. All right. Top stitch done, and then we're going to sew the bottoms together. There we go. So that is what it looks like with the zipper. And then again, because we don't want to have another problem, I'm just going to put the zipper back together. And then now I know that this side goes here. And we'll go ahead and sew that. Let me just go ahead and sew this. Yeah, the name of this pattern is Drinks at Tiffany's. It's on my website. So much easier. And then we're going to do the same thing with the lining. This is the lining where we added that zipper pocket. How cute is everything coming together? It's very, very fall. Fall-esque. Alright, I'm finding the center, clipping that together. And then just taking it all the way around. Thanks, Susan. I think so too. Jorennar? All right, a couple more clips, then we're gonna sew this down. Zipper tape feels like it just got a little twisted, but we're good. There we go. And then we're going to open it up into the top stitch just like we did on the other one. How do you know each piece has the exact same, seam allowance? So I made this pattern, so I know the seam allowance. I don't know if that's what you're asking. But the pattern tells you what the seam allowance is for each step. Each time you sew, the pattern tells you the seam allowance. So does the video. There's the video tutorial that comes with it. So if you're making it with me on the video, the seam allowance will be listed and set there. All right. Top stitch is done. Now we're going to sew the bottom to connect the inside and outside. And then I'll grab that zipper that fell on the floor and we're going to put these together. Okay. So the easiest way to put these together is just put the two side by side. Put this up here. This on here. This has a dual zipper pull. Try this side and this side. There we go. So we've got one on that side and then we're going to do one on the other. I mean, when you're sewing, how do you measure when you're sewing it? I just use the sewing machine so often, or for so long. I know the machine. I've sewn on it for years. And so I know just by looking at it what the seam allowance I'm sewing is. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me just trim this zipper a little bit. There we go. There we go. There we go. So now we have a dual pull at the top, so that way when you're going in it, you can open it, or you can just open it one side and not the other, etc. Okay, so here is the top of the bag. So again, this is the bag that we're making. This is the top part. Now we're going to add the bottom part. And this is what the bottom part looks like right side out. So it's gonna kind of look like that. Straighter. I went back and forth whether I wanted to use orange or black. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure if I wanted to do the orange handles and maybe a black bottom, but it's too late. We're here. All right, so we're going to clip the bottom to the bottom of the exterior. seam to seam. So cute. Did you quilt that before? I did, yeah. So the blocks are 3 inches by 3 inches, and then I used a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I just made one big square, and then I put the pattern piece on top of the square, and I drew out the pattern piece. So yes, I did. I quilted this yesterday to prep for today's live. I like the orange handles and bottom. Okay. I was going back and forth. I wasn't like sold one way or the other. Alright, so we're clipping the outside to the outside, and then we're going to clip the inside to the inside. And we're just going to sew both of these together at the same time. There we go. So the outside is clipped on. This is the inside that we did earlier. So I'm just going to tuck that and attach that to the inside and just reposition the clips to include this, and then we'll sew all 3 layers of these together. Both ways would be cute, I think. What did you use to interface that? So the inside lining is interfaced with SF101, and the outside is interfaced with non-fusible foam. And if you remind me when I'm done with this, I can grab the actual foam number. I know it's Pellon, but I don't know what the actual number is. But if you remind me when I'm done, I can go grab it and tell you exactly what it was that I used. Alright, so I'm just lining it up, repositioning the clips to include the lining. You're welcome. Alright, I'm going to open my zipper, that way I don't have the stress of that being closed. I have more wiggle room, get everything set up, and then sew them together. I'm going to trim my thread where I started. Almost back to the beginning. There we are. Now I'm going to pull the bottom bands down so that way I can do a top stitch. So I'm pulling the bottom down on the inside and the outside. We're going to clip these together so that way everything is nice and even, and then we're going to top stitch the top, and then we're going to sew together the bottom to connect these pieces of material together. And then after this, we're just going to add the bottom. We're going to bind it, and that's it. She is done. Your clip folded the fabric down at the first clip. I think I caught it. Yeah, I think I felt it and I caught it. But I would have caught it when I sewed it together. But thank you, I appreciate it. Sometimes I don't catch everything. Okay, there we are. So now what we're going to do, flip this out. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to top stitch the top of this band right here to secure that down. Hey Mona! So do a charm for this one instead of a nameplate. Thank you for saying that though, because most of the time I would have forgotten. But I think I want to do the charm. I want that exact bag. I don't know how to order it. So there's only one of these. This is the first time that I've made this bag. I did make a listing on my website before I came live. So if you go to butterbags.com, and it's going to be the first one who does it because I only have one. And if you just search Fall, F-A-L-L, Tiffany, Tiffany, you'll see the pattern for this. There won't be any pictures of this bag because like I said, this is the first time that I've made it. But then you can order it on my website and then I can get this shipped out first thing tomorrow. So the listing is just called Fall Tiffany. Quilted Fall Tiffany, I think. Alright, I'm almost back to the beginning. Clip my threads. And then I'll show you up close the top stitching that I just did. There we are. So this row stitching right in here is the top stitching. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew these two pieces together along the bottom to combine the fabric. Thanks, Karen. And then if you purchase this bag, so later this afternoon I'm going to upload this video that we're making right now to my YouTube channel. So if you purchase this bag, you'll have full access and show everybody how your bag was made. And make them jealous. Alright. So our inside and outside, top and bottom panels, oh, let me show you this side, are all done, and then all we have to do is add the bottom to the bag. And the bottom is just this rounded piece right here. So I'm going to turn this inside out. I have notched the center of, oh, right here, centers here, center here, here, and here. I've also marked the centers all the way around, so I'm just going to be matching that up. It is screaming fall. Hey Arlene, I didn't see you jump in. I'm not doing a nameplate on this. Instead, I'm going to do a little charm from the rolled handle. Grab my clips, move them closer. I'll probably need some more. Hey Nina! So side notch to my side seam. And then keep going. I usually just put this in my lap. It's a little easier for me to see since I'm so short. Thanks, Mustang Quilting. Alright, so we have two layers, the outside and the bottom. So if it's easier for you to sew these two together, go ahead and sew them. The next step is going to be adding binding. If you've never used binding before, I would say it's It's kind of tricky to when you first learn. I'm going to show you how I do it. There's a ton of different ways to do it. Here's how I do it, and it's the easiest for me. So the reason why we're using binding is if you look right here, you see the raw edges of the material. So remember how we sewed these inside out and then we flipped it over? This seam is inside of here so you don't see it. You just see two seamless pieces of fabric that are connected to each other. That's not the case here. So we want to cover this raw edge, and that's all that binding is. It's going to get sewn over like that to cover up that raw edge. So the way that I do it is the pattern shows you how to do this. So I fold it in half lengthwise. On one edge, I fold over the end, and then on the other end, I do not. So we're going to start with the side that's folded. I'm going to line that up with the seam. So it's kind of hard to see because the fabrics are the same. But I'm lining this up with the top all the way around and clipping that in place. We're going to sew that on. Then we're going to flip this over and sew it down again, which is going to cover up those raw edges. So again, more than one way to do binding. This is the way that I've always done it. I can't even remember where I saw somebody do it like this before. And I had seen it done a couple different ways, and I was like, this is just so easy for me. All right, and then once we get to the back, what we're going to do, or once we get to the beginning, we're going to open up that piece that has the finished edge. We're going to tuck this in and then clip it in place just like that. And again, the tutorial on this pattern walks you through exactly how to do it. There's a video, there are written instructions. So at this point, because we now have 3 layers of material, right? We have the outside, we have the bottom, and we have the binding. All 3 of those layers are what we're sewing around. I don't want them to shift. Sewing straight down is easy. I don't have to worry about them shifting. But when I start sewing the curved corners and I have to manipulate the bag underneath my sewing machine, I don't want all of those layers shifting. So what I'm going to do is add a couple staples around the corners. Once I sew everything down, I'm going to go ahead and remove the staples. But this is just going to hold all those layers together and keep it from moving so that my seam allowance is perfect while I'm sewing. Just add a couple staples, like every inch around the curve. Well, I said 3 layers, but it's not 3 layers because we have multiple layers on the outside, multiple layers on the bottom. 3 pieces, I guess, 3 pattern pieces. We're sewing those together. Okay, corners are stapled, and now we sew. So here's the corner that I was telling you. That gets a little wonky, not wonky, but it's a little bit tough to hold all of those layers together, which is why I add staples. Good afternoon. There we go. Let me take out my staples. And then all we're going to do is flip this binding over and sew that down, which is going to cover up that raw edge. Never thought of staples before. Yeah, I saw somebody else do it and I was the same way. I was like, duh, that's such a great idea. And they just come out. Now the trick is just to make sure that you get all of your staples removed before you ship it out, because that's just a liability you don't want if you sell them. So what I do is I take them out, I look all the way around to make sure that there's nothing left, and then I look on the other side, because sometimes, especially if your fabric has a certain color, it's kind of hard to see the staples. So I just check both sides just to make sure. You can even run your fingers along just to make sure. I'd rather poke myself than to send it to a customer and have them poke it. So I look on that side and then I come back over, look on this side. We're good, we're good, we're good. Or you can count the staples as you do them, and then you can count them as you remove them to make sure that you're removing the same amount that you put in. Oh yeah, why not count them? You can do that too. All right, so we're just flipping that over and I'm just clipping it down. My memory is terrible. Like, I can't remember what I cooked for dinner last night. So I would probably have to count them and then write it down, because by the time I sew it all the way around, I've forgotten. Like, I'm thinking about what I have to get at the grocery store. But yeah, do whatever works for you. There were 12. Good to know. I should have counted them as I was taking them out. Did you count them as I was taking them out as well? Are you gonna sew that at the same seam allowance? I can't quite remember what the pattern calls for, so I don't want to tell you yes or no. I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm not sure though. No, I looked away, unfortunately. Okay. You're on staple duty next time. Alright, so we have the binding flipped over. We're just going to sew all the way around. That way we have no raw seams on the inside of our bag. And that's the last step. We can flip this bad boy over and I can show you what it looks like. Oh, I forgot to clip this corner. Do it and do. I gotta manhandle her because there's so many layers. And just go nice and slow. I'm gonna trim the thread where I started. Bag making is not for the weak. No ma'am. If you were here when I was struggling with that zipper, it is not for the weak-minded either. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just singeing the little thread pieces. Okay, so that's what it looks like all stitched on. It's got a little row of orange thread. But we also have a row of orange thread right here, here, top stitching. So we're just gonna turn this right side out. I'm gonna add a charm to her and she is done. Zippers can smell fear. I did not know that, I do now. So that's what we just did, added the bottom. Gonna add a little charm and she is done, done. Which one do I want? This one I already have out. I don't know why I was thinking I was going to add it to the handle, because I can't. There's nowhere for me to add it to. I know I can add it to the zipper. I'll probably wind up adding it to the zipper, but I also think that I have some hardware that I can attach here. But I'll just add it to the zipper just to make it a little easier. I Guys, I have so much hardware, so many new things that I've bought that I just haven't even had a chance to use yet, just because I'm unpacking, I'm restocking, I'm getting ready to do custom orders, and it's like I just don't have enough time in a day. Okay. There we are. So this is what she looks like all done. So this is called, if you want to recreate this bag, the pattern is called Drinks at Tiffany's. It is on my website, butterbags.com. If you just type in Tiffany, I think only 2 listings will pop up, this and the pattern. If you want to purchase this bag, this finished bag, I only have one available. I see that I've gotten some orders. I don't know if this is one of them, but if nobody has ordered this yet, this is just called Quilted Fall Tiffany. So this is available. I only have one. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. And then if you missed the inside, again, it's a dual opening. It has tons of room. I have one of these as my everyday bag. As a matter of fact, I can go grab it for you. I think I said I was going to show you guys something when I was done with this. What did I say I was going to show you guys when I was done with this? Thank you guys. Foam. Thank you. Let me go grab the foam so I can tell you exactly the one that I used. So this one is Pellon. It says Pellon. Oh, I almost fell. Pellon style number 76. It's called Naked Flex Foam. So if you want to take a picture, Pellon 76 Naked Flex Foam. It's super light, but that's what I have. Friendship necklace. Thanks, Shirley Ann. Do you have that style in a bigger bag? Not for sale. So if you're new to my channel, I've recently moved and I've only been up and running for a few weeks. So I'm just now getting back into the swing of restocking everything. Before I move, I had a sale on everything. And so I know all of my bags like this, all of my Tiffany style bags sold. This one I haven't listed on the website yet. I have another one that I made yesterday that I'm going to be listing probably tomorrow on the website. But I have so much stuff to restock. As a matter of fact, I can show you guys the one that I did yesterday. I haven't decided if I wanted to add anything else to it, which is why I haven't listed it yet. But it is a black quilted. So the bag that I carry is this exact bag. It's quilted, it's black. I think it has a black zipper. No, it has a tan zipper. And then the inside is like a leopard print, but the black quilted Kiana, this is the bag that I carry every single day. I ship to the UK, I ship to Canada, and I ship to Australia. But this is the one that I did yesterday. And then the inside are kitty cats. So there's the zipper pocket, kitty cats on the inside. And when I say I haven't decided if I wanted to add anything else, oh, this doesn't even open up all the way. So it opens up nice and wide. I haven't decided if I wanted to add like a little charm, like a little kitty charm. I know that I have some charms. I haven't decided if I wanted to add anything. What is the inner lining called? So for the inner lining of all of my bags, I use a cotton. So all of these fabrics are cotton. The lining for this bag is also cotton, but I like to interface mine with a woven interfacing, and it just gives it more structure. It makes it a little bit more stiff. So I have one more of these cut out to make. I don't know if I'm going to make, if I make it tomorrow, I can pop on live and just show you guys. But I wanted to have at least 2 of these before I posted it on the website for sale, because some of the times they sell out really fast and then people get mad at me that I said it's available and it's no longer available. Alright, so I'm going to jump off. If you missed any of this live, it'll be on my YouTube channel later on today. If you haven't followed me, why? We would love to have you. So if you just click on the BB here and then click on the BB in the center when it comes, it'll take you to my TikTok profile. Right underneath that, there's a link to my website, there's a link to my YouTube, and there's a link to my Instagram. Bye! Do you quilt your material before you cut the pattern out? Yes. So when I made this one, what I did is, just to give you an example, I made a piece of fabric it's clear, so you're not going to see that. I cut a piece of fabric this wide and then like about 1 inch taller than the actual pattern pieces. I put the top pattern piece and then I put the bottom pattern piece, and I just made a square that was about 1.5 inches wider and 1.5 inches taller than those 2 pieces together, and I quilted the entire thing, and then I cut out my pattern pieces. And then if you want the lines to be the same going from the top down, this one is kind of off-center, just a touch. I don't know how that happened because I centered it. I'm not sure how that happened, so I won't say that. Hold on, I have some more questions. Bye, bye, bye. You're welcome, Diana. Okay, that's it. So I'm gonna jump off. I might see you tomorrow. If you're in my Facebook group, I will definitely make a post when the next time I go live to give you a heads up. Have a good afternoon. Bye.